Climb for Life, a Legacy is made possible by a grant from the Sterling and Shelley Gardner Foundation and the contributing members of KUED. Thank you. This is the story of one woman. From the East, she adopted the West. She lived for the challenge of being outdoors. And at the very pinnacle of living, she was told she was dying.
Ovarian cancer.
They didn't even think to look for ovarian cancer, and I didn't think to ask.
She was angry, finally raised up and said, I would like to do something to make sure this doesn't happen to somebody else.
And then that really began the saga, the really long saga of an extraordinarily brave woman who in the course of this became an amazing advocate.
I'm here for a reason, and I think I'm here to help other women.
Sean Patrick decided to tackle ovarian cancer the way she approached the face of a sheer cliff. Climbing against the odds became a metaphor for her personal fight against the disease and a rallying point for women she would never meet. She studied the risk. She weighed the landscape. She charted a course, and she prepared for the unexpected. One step at a time, Sean Patrick climbed her mountain. One step at a time, Sean Patrick changed the world around her. Drawn from her New York roots by the lure of a life outdoors in the West, Sean Patrick opened a small marketing and public relations office just down the road from Aspen, Colorado in 1988.
She had a big boldness, really never questioned what she thought. She knew what she believed, and when she believed it, by gosh, that was the way it was going to go.
Business was delicately balanced against her drive to connect with the mountains. It was a year-round pursuit of biking, hiking, skiing, and her greatest passion of all, climbing the rock faces of the American West.
Tall, blonde, looked like a mountain girl. For her, being out in nature was like being connected to kind of part of her balance of her soul.
But in 1997, something started to change in the life of Sean Patrick.
I was really fairly type A, if you remember, but I just wasn't feeling right. I couldn't do the things, and I kept writing it off about, oh, I'm just working too hard, I'm traveling too much, but simple things.
We would go to a doctor and they'd give you something and you'd feel a little bit better, and then the symptoms would come back. One, get something to calm yourself, you just sleep better. Take some sleeping pills at night. Two, take some mood changers, so you know what, you can be calmer. It just seems like that's that time in your life. Your hormones are changing. Well, it was awfully early.
Well, I had one doctor say to me, well, you know, you're just really driven, and what you need is to get a hobby.
I remember when she was saying that her doctor told her to get a hobby, because I just thought, Sean sure does have a lot of hobbies, and she had so much going on in life. The only thing that was really frustrating to her was not having any answers of why she was feeling sick.
Months turned into years of uncertainty, and Patrick finally argued with the doctor to perform exploratory surgery to find an answer. Again, nothing.
And a year later, I still didn't feel right. And the surgeon, to his credit, was willing to go back in, and that's when they discovered the ovarian cancer.
And at that point, it was too late. When you hear the C word for the first time, it rocks your world. You sit down and you kind of go, wow, this is it. It's one of those things that you just don't prepare for. So we chose to be very proactive.
Ovarian is one of the deadliest cancers. Roughly 15,000 women die in the United States each year from a disease usually discovered at late stage. For the next 4 years, Patrick determined to fight the medical battle while packing every moment with as much living as possible. But in 2001, both the fight and the living suddenly seemed at an end.
was climbing on Monday, and on Wednesday I was being Flight for Life out, and I was told I had 4 to 6 weeks to live or less than a 20% chance of surviving surgery. And, it's like being in the middle of an epic climb.
Doctors would later confide Sean Patrick died 3 times during the complicated surgery. They termed her late-stage cancer an endgame diagnosis.
She survived, but it was during that point in time that she really assessed the legacy that she wanted to leave and the mark and the impact that she wanted to have.
She said, I really would like to do something. They should have caught it. We did all the steps to catch it. If it can happen to me, it's happening to a lot of people out there. So she said, if we could just save one person, wouldn't it be worth it? At that point is when I saw Sean actually become genuinely who Sean was meant to be. I think she came to this place to be something bigger than what she was, and she knew it.
It's absolutely empowerment. It gives me, it's like reclaiming a certain level of normalcy in my life.
Patrick envisioned an event using climbing to change the face of ovarian cancer. If it worked for her, she reasoned it could work for others, for the thousands of women held in the grip of uncertainty when it came to their own health. She turned to her friends in the outdoor industry for advice.
I had never heard of ovarian cancer, anything about it. I never even heard the term, honestly, before until Sean began to talk about it. Fundamentally, she saw that as a vehicle for people to show you that you can confront huge obstacles, you can confront danger, you can confront potential death, and you can do it in your terms. You can be in control, you can pull in resources far deeper and greater than you ever thought, and you can draw upon an amazing community of people who share those experiences with you. And it just hit me that if anybody could pull it off, it would be her.
What was most important to us at the time was to get people talking about it. She would just say, I guess I have to be like Tom Sawyer, because she knew she needed a lot of support. And she's like, and I just need everybody to paint this fence.
Metcalf offered Patrick his Utah-based Black Diamond campus and the help of his employees, and preparations began for the first Climb for Life event in Utah's Wasatch Mountains in September 2002. The project needed money and sponsors to gain a foothold. Using her years as a marketer, Patrick dove into the heart of outdoor industry, the semi-annual Outdoor Retailers Convention, 40,000 strong, and completely unaware of ovarian cancer.
There's a lot of women in the outdoor community, but a lot of these companies are more male-dominated. Not everybody's comfortable talking about female body parts.
People were like, breast cancer? And we're like, no, ovarian cancer.
And so we had to approach it with humor and laughing, like, yeah, here we are again to talk about ovaries, and so stuff like that. And Sean was great at that.
Once people met Sean, it was hard not to be infected by her energy.
To advance the Climb for Life, Patrick created a parent organization, Hera, drawn from the pages of mythology.
Hera was a feisty woman who would not take no for an answer and who would not back down. To Sean, she seemed the perfect embodiment of this foundation that was going to change lives.
The Hera Foundation has 3 missions. One is to empower women, well women, to take control of their health. The other goal is to raise funds for research. And our 3rd mission is to improve the quality of life of women with ovarian cancer. We may not be able to change the outcome, but showing women that they can have a life and they can thrive even though they have the disease is important.
Health, empowerment, research, and awareness. And all of those things are what make you strong.
This weekend, rock climbers across the Wasatch Front are climbing for life.
It is a first-time awareness campaign for ovarian cancer research organized by a woman who 1 year ago was told she had just 6 weeks to live.
Sean Patrick has never been one to follow the rules. In fact, at 51 years old, she's setting her own.
And to get on the rock and be in this unbelievable scenery, I just feel, like I said before, I feel 150%.
She brought in just some very amazing young climbers with a lot of energy, and then brought in these cancer survivors who were just a unique group of people. That was an alchemy. There was a power and an energy to this. It was contagious.
I liked the idea of my climbing being a part of something larger.
When we go out climbing every day, we're looking to solve anything that we come across, no matter how difficult it is, no matter how improbable it seems. And I think that really came across to me upon first meeting Shawn.
The great thing about Shawn was that she was just confrontational about cancer in a way that made it fine to talk about anything that felt icky, whether it was cancer or whether it was something else that was happening in your life. Use the cancer word, throw it out there, just get mucky with it. And that was something that was really liberating to a lot of people.
The climbing community really responded to Shawn instantly, I think in part because she was a climber, but I think it was bigger than that. I think it's the fact that Shawn stayed focused on what she could do to improve her position. A lot of people think that climbers are just out taking unnecessary risk, when really climbing, it's all about mitigating and reducing the risk. It's all about how you prepare. Everybody has an Everest within them. Theirs just may not be a mountain. It may be learning to walk. It may be overcoming cancer, but we all have an Everest. If you're gonna climb a big route on an 8,000 meter peak, you're going to study the route, you're going to find out about the best gear, and you're gonna talk to people who've been there before and gone through it. Ovarian cancer is where breast cancer was 30 years ago. It's an unknown. People are not familiar with it. It's back to educating yourself, knowing what your options are. And Shawn, she did understand that at the deepest level.
There is nothing that she wouldn't take on and solve and do or learn about. And when she was diagnosed, that's exactly the same, focus on it, let's learn everything we can, let's go demand, what we need, what we want to see happen in treatment, and go pursue that and be relentless about it.
At the time of her diagnosis, Shawn Patrick confronted two realities. There were few survivors of ovarian cancer, and there was virtually no information for women to raise awareness of this disease. Patrick sought out experts to brainstorm solutions, and finding the right doctor was critical.
Before you go on an expedition with a partner you've never climbed with, you're going to go out and climb with them because you're going to trust your life with them. Same thing's true in medicine. You want to find somebody who can be your partner.
We tend to talk about ovarian cancer as if it were a single disease, but it's not.
The various diseases have long, complicated names, and they're written on a pathology report that the patient might not necessarily think too much about. But really it contains key information that they need to understand.
I just got to the top researchers and started talking to them and found out that the course that they were plotting for me really wasn't probably going to give me the best outcome. Chemotherapy had less than a 5% chance of working. And when I asked one of the top people in the world about it, why everybody was suggesting it, he said, well, they don't know what else to do with you.
I was very impressed by, Shawn's determination to trying to fight this disease for all the other women out there that have it or will have the disease. We decided we would sort of team up and that we would come up with a website, and so patients could get the best possible treatment for their particular diagnosis.
The Johns Hopkins Pathology website on ovarian cancer gets over 40,000 hits a day by visitors from over 90 countries worldwide.
So we're really trying to bring together patients who had the same kinds of diseases so that they could share their experiences, try and reduce, some of the impact.
I was 30 years old when I was diagnosed, and there was no cancer history in my family. Shawn was the first person that I had heard of that had survived ovarian cancer. Everybody kept saying, oh, that's what Gilda Radner died from. I kept saying, stop telling me these stories. And now you hear, oh, that's what Obama's mother died from. But Shawn was living at the time when I met her, and she was thriving. She wasn't only just living, she was out there and absolutely thriving. Trying to learn about the disease can be very overwhelming. All of these things that you've never even heard of before, let alone that was happening to your own body. So Sean was almost my cancer mentor. It's a whole new world. It's almost like a club, just to hear what other people are able to do while they're going through treatment. It's tough. Nobody wants to join this club. Sean was a role model for me with how she was able to persevere. You know, your life doesn't end when you're diagnosed. Even if it's a late stage diagnosis, you can still have a full, happy life.
Four years after being given 4 weeks to live, Sean Patrick and the Climb for Life gained momentum.
Lieutenant Governor Olene Walker today declared September Ovarian and Reproductive Cancer Awareness Month to coincide with the annual climb.
I want to bust the myth that ovarian cancer is a silent killer. It's not silent, and it doesn't have to kill.
It's not the thing that beats you over the head like you keel over because you've got a brain aneurysm. But when you hang around enough people and you hear enough things, you start putting two to two together and say, there really are symptoms. So we thought one powerful thing we could do is do these little symptoms cards that we could hand out. And when somebody said, you know, I feel a little different, something's off, you could look at these symptoms cards and go, ah, here they are.
Again, Patrick's friends rallied to the cause.
I thought, boy, it'd sure be interesting to do something a little bit special for Sean. Came up with this teal-colored beaner, which is a carabiner, but if you drop the C and add the H, you get Harabiner, which is just too perfect. I couldn't believe that nobody had thought of it. But then it also comes with a Partners in Action card, which outlines the symptoms. It tells you what to do if you have any of these symptoms, what sort of doctor and what sort of tests to get. We've been able to disseminate 20,000 of these out into the field, and we're really proud to have it in our line.
Finally tonight, earlier detection of ovarian cancer. For women listening out there, what would you like them to do?
I think if you have symptoms that suggest ovarian cancer, if they are new to you, if they are persistent, they don't go away, you know, after several weeks, then I think the first thing you do is go into your doctor. The overwhelming likelihood is that you're not going to have ovarian cancer, but because it's a possibility, I think it's very important to get it checked out.
It was the first step Sean Patrick had been advocating for nearly 8 years.
So that was a huge thing because it raised awareness not only in the medical community, but it raised awareness in just the general population about ovarian cancer symptoms, but still many people don't know about it. And I find, I talk to people all the time and they have no idea what the symptoms are.
Hillary Silberman met Sean Patrick at the first Climb for Life event in Utah in 2002. Her mother had recently been diagnosed with ovarian cancer. About 10% of ovarian cancer is genetically linked. Sean suggested Hillary get further testing.
She gave me a lot of information and questions to ask. So I spoke to my primary care doctor and said I wanted a referral, and she said basically, no, you don't need to go do this kind of testing. You're not 70 years old, you're not high risk, it's not cost effective. And what I credit Sean for is educating me, because I said to her, you're wrong, sorry, I want to take control of my health, and if I do have a family history and if I am going to get ovarian cancer, I want to know early.
Eventually connecting with a cancer specialist, Hillary was told she was cancer-free, but should have started screening 10 years earlier.
So the people who were in the know and were studying ovarian cancer were saying, yes, you are in the right place, you're doing this, but the rest of the medical community didn't know it. The medical community doesn't know this, and certainly my best friend and my sisters and all these other women don't know it either.
We're here at the first Hera Climb for Life at Smith Rock State Park, and we've just sent our participants and volunteers out climbing. Together they've raised over $10,000 for ovarian cancer research, and we're just so proud of them and all of their hard work.
Especially at the beginning when we just had small events and we would have $20,000 or $30,000 to give to research. That's nothing compared to these giant grants from bigger foundations. But she made the best of every penny.
I think that Shawn was very forward-looking. She recognized that fighting ovarian cancer is not a problem that's going to be solved overnight, unfortunately. It's a very difficult problem. And she recognized that what we really needed was new ideas, new talent. So she came up with what she called the outside-of-the-box grant program.
The grants encourage young scientists to come forward with innovative concepts on the treatment, early detection, and prevention of ovarian cancer.
Shawn felt it was very important to attract the young investigators to the field, and that by giving them some funding so that they can get a foothold, it would then keep them in the field and they would, dedicate their lives to solving this problem.
This started as the story of one woman. A woman given 4 weeks to live, who spent the next decade advancing a simple dream. One person could make a difference. We all have the power within us to change the world in a positive way, Sean Patrick wrote. It just takes one idea, one individual, one scientist, one company, or one community to make a difference in the world. That's the power of one.
Her vision for HERA, though she would never take the credit for it, it was about the community. But of course, there wouldn't have been a HERA Climb for Life. All these people who have been touched by Shawn and HERA, all the money that has been raised to go towards ovarian cancer research wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for Shawn. So I think a big part of what she was about this idea, the power of one, that you can change the world. And that was just integral into her message at many different levels.
For her friends, Sean Patrick's early estimate of having 4 weeks to live was buried in the subsequent 13 years of service. Research dollars poured in. Women learned of health awareness, and Shawn seemed to defy her diagnosis.
What we all kind of got accustomed to was that Shawn was immortal. Shawn always bounced back.
She beat all odds.
I would sometimes not even think about it. You just didn't even think about Shawn having cancer. There she was, climbing the Grand Teton and going climbing and going to yoga and doing really, really well. And as the years passed, that started to change.
Each time the distance gets closer to the last time you had it and closer to the last time you had it, and the thing that you used before doesn't really touch it the next time.
It was a little frightening, and I almost had a sense of disbelief when she started to get sicker, because you always felt like she would always be there. She was going to get through it no matter what.
I saw her at her last admission, and she was as enthusiastic as ever, already thinking about some other studies that we should be doing, and she was so, even in the hospital bed, so vital.
Shawn was just such an incredibly strong person, and at this point, I'm sorry, it was apparent that it really was, getting close to that time.
A running comment for us all the time is well, at least I know it's going to get me. So she had these lighthearted things when things got really heavy and the big dark gorilla was in the room. You'd find ways to kind of stop and just kind of make light of it, because it's easier to laugh about it and move on, because the reality is you just do the best you can every day.
On January 20th, 2009, Sean Patrick passed away.
I just remember seeing her on the cliff face, climbing, and just, big smile on her face, surrounded by her friends and doing what she loved. That's how I think of Shawn.
My name's Rhea Wasson. I live in Glenwood Springs, Colorado, and I'm here. I raised money for the HERA Foundation for Ovarian Cancer with my school. It's a lot of fun. It's challenging. That's the best part.
About 10 years ago, we had a staff member who was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. She died young and quickly, and that was about the same time that Sean was setting up this Climb for Life event. If we could be doing anything to be raising money or raise awareness to prevent that, in the future, that's what we want to do. It seems to me she's going to be one of the big ones who really make a difference with this disease.
Living your vision and believing in it. That's a legacy that Sean has left, and it's definitely here. It's here on the rocks.
I'll always think of Sean as somebody who did so much, never knowing how much time she had. It's remarkable what somebody can do.
She's left behind this cadre of new, young, determined investigators who are brought into the ovarian cancer field, who are now have their careers focused on trying to combat this disease. Lost a big voice.
Sean so embodied that, the idea that one person can change the world and you do it just one piece at a time. She had the ability to execute on an incredible vision. The way she put together her climbing experiences with her experiences from ovarian cancer, she actually wove that together into this magnificent, vibrant, beautiful tapestry that was her life.
She would say, this is about you. This is about you taking control of your life, you taking your health care into your own hands, and becoming empowered, no matter what the circumstances are that you're faced with.
One of the Seanisms that I love is that life happens and the only thing you control is your attitude. And life is a whole lot more fun if you have a good attitude.
She said, hey, Doc, I got a hobby. It's called ovarian cancer. And I mean, that's, something you've probably heard that,
And as Sean would always say, dealing with climbers, it's like herding cats. Cancer didn't mean that life was over. There's a lot more living left to do.
Climb for Life, a Legacy is made possible by a grant from the Sterling and Shelley Gardner Foundation and the contributing members of KUED. Thank you.